as to whether indeed government's claim that he paid the monies in full to them was done or not. Now, if you have said that your money should be paid to Consa and Micheleti, who should you be suing? You understand what I'm saying? Now, these things are all done. Now, if you look at this same report, it lists the kind of things that Waterville decided to invoke an arbitration clause in a non-existent contract. And government followed Waterville per the invocation of a clause in a non-existent contract to go for arbitration. And in the arbitration, the guys even asked for 20 million for termination of contract. Which contract? In the same report, the EOCO even...
the first time the mistaken belief occurred?
No, they are two separate issues.
Okay. No, you know,
okay, you're talking about Waterville.
Yes.
But we need to do a quick
yes.
on the arbitration issue.
Right.
Probably that's why I'm here.
Right.
An arbitration clause survives the termination of the contract.
Yeah.
Legally separate and distinct from its mother contract.
Yeah.
But they did not go for arbitration. They went for mediation. We have challenged them to produce a notice of arbitration because that will be required. There ought to be pleadings. There ought to be appointments of arbitrators. Where was the seat of the arbitration? Where is the arbitrators' award? There's nothing.
Okay.
It appears to us that to be nice, they went for a mediation.
Okay.
Watch this. A mediator does not make an award. You know that. A mediator helps the negotiation between the parties, and it is where the parties meet. That is entered as what the parties have agreed.
Okay.
So technically, you don't have a mediator's award because he does not do a judicial assessment of the matter and pronounce a third-party independent award. Okay. So whichever monies were paid to Waterville were monies that the government, acting on our behalf, agreed to pay at the mediation. I don't think anybody should confuse this.
That's what it says here.
Yes. Okay.
That they invoked the dispute settlement clause in the agreement of April 26, 2006 and called for mediation. The mediator agreed upon between government and Waterville was Mr. Kwawono. And the claim presented by Waterville was for the following reliefs. An order for the payment of 9.6, yes. That's balance for work. They go on all of them. And then they come to 20 million euros as general damages for breach of contract.
Breach of contract.
Yes, 20 million.
And so this was what...
Eventually, however, the parties agreed that Waterville will be paid an amount of 25 million euros in full. And final settlement of all its claims against government in the matter of termination of a stadium contract.
But then it should trigger a question. And I think that this is where we're having a problem.
Yes. And this figure was paid.
Now, 25 million.
Now, it appears to me
in Ghana cedis in full.
We have read that when the government terminated the agreement and Waterville accepted the termination, there was the issue of quantum merit. Okay. What work have they done?
How much work you've done?
So consultants were appointed to go and measure work done, materials on site, materials off site. This is what happens in engineering contracts.
Absolutely.
And an amount was given to government that this is what you owe this entity. They agreed that that money should be paid to their subcontractors. Well, interestingly, when the contract was terminated, it was awarded to the subcontractors to perform in Ghana. And I think information is seeping out that Waterville, Micheleti, and Consa are associated companies.
Exactly the same.
Very interesting. But Randy...
Yeah, but let's wind up on this.
Yes.
Now, they do not make any claims while the last government is in office.
Right.
And EOCO says that the government leaves office and immediately Waterville comes up with these huge claims, way over and above what the consultants had measured as quantum merit, the work they had done leading to the termination. So we go to a mediation and accept that there had been a breach of the contract. And we say government's a continuum. What happened? We must ask fundamental questions. Were they handing over notes in the Ministry of Sports and the Attorney General's Department? Or there's an event Ghanaians seem to have forgotten, that instead of managing a transition, the two parties went and sat at the transition, they fought, the MPP walked out. Is it the case that they then walked out with all the information that this government probably required? Is it the case that when this matter came up, because of the NPP-NDC thing that has been going on in this country, people in government didn't want to stoop low to consult people who had been in the previous government to ask questions, and so Ghanaians are paying for this NPP-NDC thing that is going on? If all of these things have happened, what didn't they know? And they are very critical questions. When did they find Honorable Adjumameno's letter in which he clearly states that we have no contract where this whole banking and financial engineering thing is concerned? Because judgment was entered, was given on the 24th of May 2010. It was entered on the 26th of May. On the 28th of May, the Attorney General was writing letters to the Ministry of Finance demanding payment. By 11th June, the Attorney General, in an affidavit, in a motion filed by signed by Neko, an affidavit deposed by him, is saying that we were of the mistaken belief that there was a contract. So in a matter of 2 weeks, we had found Ajma Menu's letter. This is shocking. So if there had been any conversation between people who had occupied office and people who were in this office, we probably would not be in this mess. We ought to catch the two parties and cane them.
Very interesting view.
Let me ask you this.
Randy,
I have, yes.
Yeah, you want to ask Ace a question?
Yes. You know, it baffles me. This suit that has been amended, whilst this suit was pending, which is the mistaken belief, we were involved in a pre-trial conference.
Let's go back.
We'll talk about that because it's also tabled on this thing.
Right.
And as I told you, it all features interestingly in the ruling by Justice Tanko. And so, as I said, we will deal with this one fully. But let me bring Dr. Apak into the discussion at this stage and ask you, Doc, this is a very interesting point, page 15. I'm reading this, and I want your view on that.
Okay.
That's 5, Alfred Woyome, particularly on him in this report. It says Mr. Woyome put in a claim for an amount which by his own documentary submissions he was not entitled to. He manipulated documents and information and riding on the negligence and or complicity of public officials managed to receive money which he was clearly not entitled to. Yeah. It's a very definitive position taken by EOCO in this report on this matter. What do you make of this, particularly where complicity is suggested? Complicity of public officials, and also that he clearly was not entitled to the money, actually by his own submissions.
You see, most of the narration so far clearly points to the fact that something went wrong, and that wrong has cost us a lot of money. And there's a need for us to try and find out where it began, who was a part of it, and whether those who played significant roles to facilitate this were conscious or not. And if indeed they were conscious, did they do that because some people were expecting personal gain, which to me as an anti-corruption crusader goes to the classic definition of corruption, the use of entrusted power for personal gain.
Is that what you see?
It is very clear.
Is that your reading of the situation?
Well, I mean, if we are to go by the report, in spite of all the shortcomings, which my two colleagues here have pointed out, keeping in mind that this is an interim report, so perhaps all of these points that have been raised may come out in the final report. It is clear to me, based on this document and what I know so far, that indeed there was a deliberate attempt to gain wealth that Mr. Woyome was not entitled to.
By who?
Well, obviously, the central figure in this whole process is Alfred Woyome. And this is why perhaps it is important that we allow the processes to work themselves out. But as we do this, it is also important for public officials, present and past, to recognize that they have a responsibility to the people, and that we require them to do due diligence and to ask the proper questions in a way that will protect the interests of the people. So what is going on in this country, and this is the beginnings of what I think is going to serve as a basis for us to begin to engage in the type of social transformation that I believe we need as a nation. Because, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but it looks to me as though this is not going to be the last time that this type of activity is going to occur in the history of our nation. So if we are smart, as we are working to address what went wrong, we are also going to begin the processes of putting in mechanisms that will prevent things like this from happening. And that is where perhaps the earlier comment by Ace comes in. Because sometimes you wonder why people who have been entrusted to represent the people and to act on our behalf can allow these sorts of things to occur. But you see, the reassuring aspect though is that we know there is something wrong. And it looks to me that there is a national consensus that there is a need to redress what has gone wrong, but more importantly, to ensure that this doesn't reoccur. Okay. So in that sense, yes, he almost got away with it, but it is my hope that we will be able to retrieve whatever is due the state back. But if we are to go by the content of the report, it is very clear that the assumption that he didn't deserve what he got has been supported. And I think this is perhaps the basis on which we see in the report that indeed His Excellency intervened on more than one occasion to try and stop the payment from occurring. Okay. Now, the question that most people have raised is, if he tried to stop it, why did it go on? And that perhaps some people may not have obeyed his directives. But I don't think that is the case. I think that certain entities allowed, you know, some machinations to go on at places where nobody expected them to go on. So as we are proceeding, I think more is going to come out. If you ask me, this is an issue that has a lot of steam. More is going to be revealed, but it is important too that we don't forget how it came to be. I mean, we now know that perhaps he didn't have a contract, but we also know that there are certain processes that have to take place when we are engaging external entities in terms of contractual agreements, going to Parliament. So the issue is much more broader, and we must look at it within the context of the bigger national crisis of judgment debt. In the first place, there is no reason why we should be losing the amounts of money that we've been losing year in and year out to judgment debts. They are totally avoidable.